Hi guys, I'm Dane with CVF Off-Road. Today we're going to be doing a front bumper install on this 2021 Jeep JL. The first thing we got to do is open the hood. Once the hood's open, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. All we need to do is disconnect the negative cable in this case. Now that the battery's disconnected, we'll remove the top cover for the bumper. All we need for that is a screwdriver or a little plastic pry bar. There's 8 push pins to remove. Now the top cover has been removed. Our next step is going to be removing the electrical harness for the front bumper. That plug is located on the passenger side, right here on the frame rail. Go ahead and push that little tab, give it a little wiggle and a pull, should come right apart. Now the electrical connector has been disconnected. There's 2 bolts that need to be removed on the plastic skid plate under the front bumper. We need an 8mm ratchet. We have 1 bolt on the driver's side and 1 bolt on the passenger side that need to be removed. There's 4 bolts that need to be removed from each side of the bumper. There's going to be 2 on the inside, 2 on the outside. For your inside bolts, you'll want to use an 18mm socket deep well. For the outside 2 bolts, same 18mm socket deep well, but you'll also want a 3 to 5 inch extension. The inside 2 bolts can be easily accessed through the little gap between the bumper and your front grille. Now that the last nut has been removed, there's nothing holding the bumper on. Give it a wiggle, should slide right off. If you need help, ask a friend. If a little wiggle doesn't get your bumper off as easy as ours came off, there's a 16mm bolt on each side of the frame rail. You can loosen up these brackets, and that'll help you wiggle the bumper off a little bit easier. Now the bumper's off and out of the way, there's 2 bolts to remove from this front plate, 16mm on each side. Once this bolt is removed, there's 2 clips top of the frame rail that hold this piece in place. Slide it up, comes right off. Now the front cover's off. Next thing to do is removing the factory frame bumper brackets. We use the same 16mm ratchet and socket. That completes the disassembly. If you're going to be installing a winch, now would be the time that you would install the winch bracket. To install the winch bracket, you're going to be reusing 2 of the 60mm bolts that we use to remove the front bumper brackets. The slots on each side will go towards the rear bumper. Install the bracket going bottom up. Take your time wiggling that into place. As you can see, it can be done with 1 person, but if you have a buddy, it'll make it easier. Once you have the bolts in finger tight, you can go ahead and snug them with a ratchet. We don't want to go tight here, just enough to where we can still wiggle. We'll do our final torque later once we install our front bumper bolts. We'll be installing the CVF Off-Road winch today. This winch comes with mounting hardware. Most winches come with mounting hardware. So if you're not using our winch, we recommend that you do use the hardware from that manufacturer. To install the hardware, in this case, we have slotted square nuts. Once the winch is on its side, slide these nuts into place carefully. There's 2 on each side. Once those square nuts are in place, we can slowly flip it over and then carefully carry over to our winch bracket and set it on. If we tip side to side, those nuts will slide back out. So be careful when you're carrying it over. So slide this carefully back into place. mounting hardware in the CVF Off-Road Winch kit. We use the same 16mm socket and ratchet for tightening these bolts up. Now those nuts are snug, we can center up our winch bracket, or our winch on our bracket. At this time, you'd wire up your winch. As you can see, we've already wired our winch in with our control box. So to mount the control box, you can see where we have 4 holes that'll mount up. This hardware is also in the CVF hardware kit. Before screws. I find this works best if you start with one corner at a time. Now the control box has been mounted, we can install our power cables. They are color coded for each terminal on the back. Red to red, yellow to yellow. 2 blacks will go together. Now the wiring's connected, we can go ahead and finish snugging up the 4 bolts that hold the winch into place. Now we'll go ahead and install our inserts and pods for this bumper. It's a lot easier to do off the vehicle than on the vehicle. That's why we're going to do it now. Make sure we always tighten these bolts in a crossing pattern. Now the light pods and inserts have been installed, we're ready to install the bumper. When we install the bumper, we'll be using these 2 holes and these 2 holes. The bolts will also go through the winch bracket if you're using a winch. Once one bolt's in, we'll hold the bumper in place. Once bolts are in place, you can let the bumper go, it'll sit there. Now we can install our last 2 bolts, tighten them up. We can take our front plate now, the bumper's completely secured. Start by sliding them through slot carefully, inserting the bracket into its hole. Use one hand to secure it, while you use your other to install your hardware. We're gonna attach our winch strap now. Grab the supplied hook. Install the pin through the eyelet. Attach with a cotter pin. If you purchase Shackles, this is where you would install those. So the 4 grommets that come, 2 will go on each side. The passenger side shackle is a little tricky. You want to make sure that the little rubber stop is on the inside facing the bumper. We'll slide the bolt back just far enough to slide the shackle on, otherwise we'll hit our bumper here. Slide it into place, and wiggle right back together. Thread this back in finger tight. We send a special tool for tightening. You take your 3/4 open end wrench, snug them down. Now if that's tight, we can move over to our driver's side shackle, slide them into place, a little wiggle. And then we can lock them down. This will complete our bumper installation. Now all we gotta do is reconnect our battery. Go ahead and get the hood closed and secured now. The battery's been reconnected. That'll complete the installation of our Legion Series bumper on the JLG. If you have any technical questions or installation questions, reach out to us via email or phone, or check us out online. Thanks for watching.